one of the reasons I put this podcast to life was to make a positive impact on the industry and, as most importantly, society as well. And that's what we're going to talk about. That actually how we as operators can make a huge impact on people's life, but also society. And for that, we have Greg with us today from Only A Pavement Away. Welcome, Greg. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Michael.
On the show. And we're going to explore a bit about the journey, the impact they've done up to now, and how you can get involved, and all things hospitality and impact. So, Greg, for people that don't know the journey, it's a very known journey, but it's always good to repeat the story and the journey, because that's where a lot of the seeds of great outcomes lies. So talk a bit about how you came to the idea, together with your wife, to put Only a Pavement into the world.
So it was by chance, really. I've been in hospitality all my life, over 50 years. We'd been out for a meal, walked along the Strand. Jill had said, look at all these rough sleepers. And I said, well, we've got 80,000 jobs. And that was back in 2017. And Jill just said, well, someone should do something about it. So I had a consultancy at the time. I contacted a guy called Ben Stackhouse, who owns Pub Love, a backpacker hostel. And I'd done consultancy for him and become a friend. We become pals. And he said, look, if you find a reputable charity and it's all done properly, I'm in. So I went to Crisis, met a guy called Dalal. And Dalal said, yeah, hospitality come to us, always showing interest, but don't normally come back. So if you come back in a fortnight, then let's talk. I went back in 10 days, introduced Dalal to Ben. They then got on really well together. They became our first trustees. We then approached a guy called Tony Sophocles, who was from UK Hospitality. He became our chair. And then we took on a guy called Matt Wyatt. Well, we coerced him, really. He was a friend of Ben's and I knew him. He's got an accountancy firm called Wellers. And we sort of took Matt out for a drink. And all of a sudden he became a trustee as well, and offered a load of pro bono work, as he still does to this day. And Only A Pavement Away was born then. And in 2018, we launched in the October in the House of Commons. By the December, we placed our first member into work with Ben at Pub Love. And I just had that view. I was just going to carry on doing my consultancy. I was going to be a bit of a do-gooder, help people get into work. And then I'd be quite honest, Michael, I was then going to sort of bugger off and go back to my consultancy. By May of that year of 2019, I had closed down the consultancy because we were getting busy. And Jill and I both volunteer at the charity, so we take nothing out of it. And then Only A Pavement Away grew and grew and grew. And that's how it came alive.
And where are we today? Because you start with one. That's normally, you always start with the first one.
Yeah.
One. And where are we today? How many jobs are you actually?
So we've actually placed 815 people into work. We focus on quality, not quantity. So we'd rather give an employer 2 people who are going to stay with them rather than 200 people where 199 are going to leave. We've added, and we calculate this through how people pay their tax, national insurance, rent, rates, disposable income. We've added £32 million to the economy because people are now putting money into the economy. They're not taking their benefits. Our average length of service is 2 years, and over 50% of our what we call members stay with their employers for longer than a year. And we work with people who have or are facing homelessness, people who have left prison, people who have left the military with issues, survivors of domestic abuse. And we now have 1 or 2 of our members have autism. We have people who have mental health issues, and we're just looking at now how we can work with people who have got Down syndrome. So we actually will look and work with anybody who's got a blocker. We've got a guy who's and the Hilton Park Lane, and he'd had a stroke, what would have been 12 years ago now. Came on one of our courses. He couldn't actually find a job because he couldn't use the right side of his body at all. But the GM at the Park Lane Hilton said, "Hey, I like this guy. What are we going to do?" Well, he couldn't be a barista. He couldn't be a runner. He couldn't be a barman. And 3 years later, he's been working in the Hilton Park Lane Laundry. So what we do is we give people that opportunity and we introduce them to employers who have got empathy and want to give something back to their communities and recognise that people are going to have blockers of getting into work. But if you take them and give them a chance, they're as good as anyone.
And I guess also, like, you put more than 800 people in job, you also work with a number of operators. How many operators are involved today, like actively involved and regularly?
I would say, actively involved, we've got 95 operators, about 140 what we call referral charities, and that will include the Ministry of Justice with all their prisons, veterans charities, domestic abuse charities. So we've got those. We've also seen another 4,500 people through our workshops, our recruitment fairs, our taster days. So we've actually, I suppose, touched the lives of over 5,000 people. And, you know, some employers are small. They can only take one person, and that's great. And they stay with them and they look after them. We have bigger employers, the Green Kings of this world, who work very much with us on custodial, Hilton, who support us very much on the training. We've got Gauchos, Evolve, Burger and Lobster, Pizza Pilgrims. So, you know, we've still got Pub Love. Ben's still in there and he's still taking people.
Well, that's good. You know, return customers is always the best customers, yeah? And what is then because it seems like you're already doing a lot, like you already have had huge impact, but what is the ultimate goal here, Greg?
The ultimate goal is, oh God, someone asked me this, I always say facetiously, it's like world domination. It's a bit sort of, I wouldn't say I'm like him, but, you know, it's like Donald Trump, really. I just want to take over the world. But I suppose to us, we don't want to lose our ethos and values. We will always be a family charity. You know, both our girls are involved in the charity. We want to stretch as far as we can. We know that we have people who are called relationship managers, and two of them work with charities, a couple work with custodial, some work with employers. And it's been proven that if you have a relationship manager on the ground in an area, you will get people into work. We did a lot of events and campaigns in Scotland, and we couldn't get anybody into work in Scotland. So we took on Katie. She's up in Scotland, looks after Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, and those areas. And now we've got 28 people into work. We've got Jess, Tara, and Ben up in the north, Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool. We're getting people into work. So our ultimate goal is to make sure we can cover every bit of the UK. But for that, we need the funding to support the relationship managers. You know, and I have to sort of reiterate here is that we control our finances very tightly. Both myself and the rest of the trustees are all agreed that we will always have 10 to 12 months worth of salary in one of our bank accounts because that protects our teams. And we don't take anyone on unless we can protect them for a year. But, you know, the more money we have, that will go directly into supporting our members. We pay out a lot of money in grants to help them with Kickstart grants, getting their first shop, getting to work, helping them with their rent. So the more money we have, the more we can do to support our members and the more we can take on relationship managers.
Talk to me a bit about the relationship managers and why they are so critical. What is it that they do besides they get people into job? But what is like typical the process that makes that happen? What is the magic?
So the process that makes it happen is that the charity relationship managers will work with the charities, and there's obviously the custodial managers work with the prison leavers and the Ministry of Justice. What they do is that the employer relationship managers will work closely with the employer so the employer is protected. We have another lady called Misha who does all the screening. So no matter if the charities screen them or the prison screen them, we do our own screening. So an employee is not going to end up on the front page of a tabloid newspaper saying they've sacked someone, and it's just headline stuff. We make sure they know either the offence or if there's been any addictions or substance abuse, so the employers know that. So the employer relationship managers always make sure that the employers are there for recruitment fairs, that they check in on the person they place with them. The charity relationship managers talk to all the charities and say, right, let's get people on a recruitment fair. Did a recruitment fair recently, 80 people were there. If they don't get a job, they've had the experience of being interviewed by some pretty top-heavy and weighty recruitment managers from some big companies. And then the custodial relationship managers, they will work with what they call the prison employment leads in every prison, and they will set up the recruitment fairs, they will get the prisoners placed. And what the relationship managers also do is they change the perception of the employer or the charity. So charities and, people in prisons might turn around and say, you're the booze boys, aren't you? Can we put someone where it's the alcohol industry? And we said, well, hold on a minute. We're the people who, it's these employers that pay the grants, that give people a chance, that work within their communities, that do fantastic jobs on mental health, help anybody that might have a drink or substance problem within their own teams. And then we say to the employers, look, you're working with charities who have got a really good setup. So we just wouldn't take a charity or someone on who's saying, I can get you people off the street. We don't do that. We don't take people out of doorways, and we don't take them as they walk out of prison. They have to come through a support worker, probation officer, someone who's trying to get them into work. So we're that sort of speed dating conduit. We make sure that the charities and the prisons have got people ready for work and they want to come into hospitality, and then we make sure the employers are ready to take them. And I suppose the other big thing is we change that perception of hospitality. When you go in and you talk to people at the charities and the prisons, it's 30 pence an hour and I'm going to work 90 hours a week. And then you introduce them to some of our employers and they will go in and talk to them, or our team explain what happens. And they turn and say, God, this is a sexy industry. This is a really, really good industry. I could go and work where else can I work where I get pensions, shares, uniform, meals on duty, team camaraderie, mental health support, all the training. And they suddenly turn and say, yeah, this is an industry to be proud of. And we've got one member who's been with Malmaison Hotels for 6.5 years up in Newcastle. We've got another guy who came to us via a charity where he'd been duped by a contractor on a building site and had come over here from Romania, came legally. He's now been over 5 years, and he works, he's a sous chef for the Wolseley Group. We've got people at Green King who have left prison and been with them 2-3 years. We've got someone, the Ivy. We've got someone in the Ivy who's now been there 3.5 years. And he's very open, and he's just written his story with UK Hospitality that are going to help us get it printed about, when he was on the steps and when he was people attacked him and tried to steal his clothes, and get into how he was housed in a drug den by the local council because that's the only room they had. So, these people turn around and say, yeah, hospitality is a great business. I'm not getting soaking wet. I'm not getting cold if I was working outside. I'm bringing to the party a behaviour and attitude that you can't train. I'm bringing to the party a desire to work. Where else are you going to get someone who's got tenacity, who's streetwise if they've come out of prison, who's got the courage if they've been on the streets, who wants a new chance if they've been in an abusive relationship? You can only get that in hospitality. There's no other industry that can match ours for that.
And I guess also we are, when we've put our mind to it, we're very good at taking people with backgrounds that has been disadvantaged and actually help them to get in because we are so multifaceted. We really want to. I remember I worked for McDonald's when you mentioned Down syndrome in the beginning. And actually one of the things we focused on was actually young people with Down syndrome because it was very good environment, because it was quite disciplined, repetitive work that has to be done, and they actually thrived in it when they had the shift that no longer than 4 hours. And we had some great stories with these young people that stayed. One of them, I think he was 9 years in one restaurant, because he felt safe and he felt he had meaning. And yeah, he came 3 times a week and did an incredible job. Yeah, and it was a very important part of the team because also he learned other young people. There's other things out there in the world, and there's people that's actually having challenges or disadvantages when they come into it. Now, another thing you said before, I'm just going to take us a bit back. You talked about these relationship managers, and I think it's really interesting how focused you are on the quality of the relationship, because that's that. What you're saying in between the lines, what I hear is that the ability to build relationship with multiple stakeholders is the recipe to success and results when it comes to help disadvantaged people to get into job and help the economy and so on.
Yeah, very much so. And I think what the relationship managers do and what we get across to our employer partners is it can happen to any of us. You know, I say this to a lot of people. You might have guessed by the accent, I've come out of the East End of London, Canning Town, Silvertown. My mum and dad were both teachers, headmaster, headmistress. The police were more frightened of my mum than they were the criminals. You know, she was a bit of a tartar. But 25% of my mates went to prison or had a run-in with the police because that's the area we came from back in the 70s, you know, in the 80s. And I think what we have to get across to people is, any of us could face redundancy and end up with our lifestyle change. And, you know, 1 in 4 of us have all committed an offence. So have you got a speeding ticket? Have you run a red light? Or are you a psychopath? And do your colleagues not know that? So just because someone comes and says, I'm from a homeless charity or I'm from a prison, they're no different to somebody you're already working alongside. So why, you know, give someone a chance. And you know, we're not soft. We're not do-gooders. There are certain offences we don't deal with. We will flag up when someone has an abuse, substance abuse, so the employers know at what stage this person is going through their rehabilitation or the issues they might be finding, or if there's any mental health problems. And, you know, we only share that if we're allowed to, but to candidates, before they get, as we call them, before they get a job, are happy for that to be shared. You know, and I just, you know, you go into employment, no one puts a wrap around people the way hospitality does. And what the relationship managers do is that they build up that relationship with the charities and the employers and the individuals. And that's what allows us to say to our individuals and to our members, would you be willing to have your story told? And we're very protective of our members. You know, the amount of papers who have come to us and said, oh, we'd like to do a story on you. Yeah, okay then. But then you want to know the backdrop. You want to know why that person went in prison, all the gory details, why that person might have ended up on the street for a couple of months. They're not guinea pigs. They're not sort of trophies that you can collect and sell your newspapers or your media. So if someone wants a picture with them on to tell their story and our members don't want it, we just tell the media to go away.
Yeah. But again, protecting the quality of the relationship you spend a long time of building up with actually is the reason, I guess, why you're making the results you're doing. How are you helping, you know, because maybe we go a bit into that. So there's a candidate coming in, he comes from multiple places. But what is it that exactly you do on that process for getting them ready to go and, you know, apply for the job or the interview? Because I guess there is some support that needs to happen before they're ready sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. So the referral partner, like the charity or the prisons, will forward people to us. And like I say, we have a screening process. And then they go onto our jobs portal. And then we have Lena, who's our learning and development coach. And her and Misha and another lady, Federica, will ring them to check out everything's okay and get more information on them and do our own screening process. They will then either go on to what we call passport to employment, which is a 1-week course, which allows them to experience hospitality. Or they might have a taster session where they go in and see how a restaurant or a pub runs or a hotel runs. Or they will also speak to Lena on the phone, who will find out what the issues are, if there are any, and how she can help them. And so we actually, you know, we've got one guy who's been, I think it's 6 or 7 months, and he's still not yet ready for work. But he will be. But if he keeps on if he hadn't have been with us, he'd have kept on being sent for an interview by the charity or the job centre, and he would have been totally demoralised. So now when we send him for an interview, we let him know and the employer know that this is a practice interview. This is to build his confidence up. And then what Lena and Misha and Federica do is they talk to these people, and they talk to the members rather, and they get them and they build their confidence, and they find out what the blockers are. They find out what is it that's stopping you going for an interview, and what are you frightened of? It might be technology. It might be the fact that you're going to go for an interview and what are you going to say? How do you dress? Well, what are the questions you ask? Maybe learn a little bit about the company you're going to. Maybe don't take all your friends so they sit outside while you're being interviewed. Go there with a positive mind. Don't worry about you can't cook or you can't pour a pint or you're not a barista. Have you got the attitude and behaviour and the desire to want to work in hospitality? And when they go for those jobs and they show the attitude, behaviour and the desire, I haven't had an employer yet or heard of one that's come back and said, no, we won't take them because they haven't got their basic hygiene or they can't use a coffee machine. Never happened since we started in 2018. Never. The employers just turn and say, they're right, we like them, we want them. The number of employers that say to me, we might not have a vacancy, but we're going to find one. Is incredible. And that again is down to hospitality. Like I say, been in it since I was 15. Best industry there is. You can't fault it. We just need to get that to the outside world.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting to talk about confidence, because I guess that's what holding most people back sometimes. Some kind of belief or worldview that I can't do this, I'm not worthy, or whatever it is, and actually helping people breaking down those barriers before they sit in the interview actually is the key thing why the company would like to employ them, because who doesn't want people with confidence? Because then you can always train in the competence afterwards, the technical bit.
Yeah. I think that the confidence is, I met a guy called Nathan when Jill and I did one of our first prison visits, and he actually said to me, he was doing 3 years, and he said to me, I should have been put in prison when I was born. They should have got it out my system. He said, because I was brought up on a housing estate, I wasn't academic, I wasn't sporty, didn't know my dad. My mum seemed to have a lot of friends around. He said, so I was destined to come to prison. And all his life he's been told, you're not good at sport, you're not good at academia, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. But he had a talent because he was big and he was strong. And he actually said, in your world, Greg, I'd have been an area manager. He said, because I had a number of people reporting to me. And he knew that when he came out of prison, he knew the gangs would want to try and get to him because he had a lot of skills and competencies, but he didn't want to. He'd lost touch with his partner, wasn't seeing his son, knew that his flat wouldn't be there when he came out. And so if you've got that, you just need someone to say to you, I'm going to give you a chance. And on a Friday night, if you're shouted at or you're cheered up, it's not because you're a prison leaver. It's because we've got to get either 30 a la carte meals out in a very, very high-end restaurant, or, my God, I've got them 3 deep at the bar. So we've got to go along. It's the nature of the business that is exciting, and that's what they like. A number of people come and say, can I start on the pot wash? And they can slowly build their confidence up. If they're from abroad, it might help their language barrier, overcome that. It's just all those things that you actually turn around to someone and say, you're no different to the rest of us. You're no different to the rest of us. Gerald, who doesn't mind me saying this, had that stroke 12 years ago. He's a key employee. He's gone back to painting. He's gone back. He can, the GM at the Hilton sort of makes sure that because his speech is slurred, everybody lets him finish his conversation. He's somebody. He's like the rest of us, except his problems were evident. He'd had a stroke.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't he get a job, What stops you getting a job? If you've got that attitude and behaviour and you smile and you want to do it right, then, you come to hospitality. That's the key thing. And we give you that confidence because we give people the industry, and what we believe in is you give someone a chance. Just give them a chance. We have had those who have run off. We had someone nick the tip jar. We had someone who didn't come back after lunch. But as one manager said to me, I've had that for people that I've taken on who work in the office building around the corner, Greg.
Yeah.
So you've just got to give people a chance, give them that opportunity and they will pay you back.
What are some of the changes and impact that's been in the people that get employed, the candidates? What has happened in their life? Because I guess a lot of positive things that happen up to, of course, getting a job is like a key turning point. But then after there, they must have been on an incredible journey. They must suddenly feel part of society again.
Yeah, I think we've got one guy who is at the Hilton. And he's on one of our videos when he was interviewed, and he said he can now on a Friday night go for a pint because he's got the money to do that. We've got someone else who's, after they had mental health issues and a bit of a breakdown, ended up on the street. He's seeing his grandkids. We've got another lady who, her and her husband are now not in a rundown flat. So all those things is the opportunities it opens up for. Gerald's been on holiday. I always say to people, and Gerald sort of said to me, would he have walked down Park Lane? No. Would he have walked in the Hilton Park Lane? No. Would he have left his CV? No. 3 years later, he's working at the Hilton Park Lane, and people know him for the job he delivers. People know Ben for what he delivers. People know Paul for being a stock controller. People, we've had a guy, Levi, who, he worked for Green King, did a great job, but he always wanted to do street food. So we gave him a grant, and then he started that, and then Curb turned around and said, we're going to give you a bigger grant, because the initial grant we gave him was he wanted to do street food, and he couldn't drive. So we gave him intense driving lessons, passed his test, and then Curb stepped in and said, right, we're going to give you a grant to help you. We've had, a guy who, again, started with Green King, but always wanted to be a physio, and he moved on to be a physio. But the key thing is that when they go for that second job, people don't say to them, why were you in prison? Why did you sleep on the streets of London for a few months? No, what they say is, so tell me what you learned at your last employer. Tell me what you're bringing to the party. They don't want to know about the prison or the homelessness, because what they want to know is, what did you do there? And how come you were there 2 years and you got promoted? So tell me what you're going to bring to my business. I don't need to know you're in prison. That's gone. So, and that's what it does. It gives people, so whether someone stays with us 3 months or 3 years, it allows them to then go out and say, look at me for what I am, not what I was.
Yeah, and I guess if you think it from an employer point of view, it is great if you can keep people for many years and they become part of your culture and part of your business, but also that story actually that you have actually been the intersection of somebody that got a second chance, and they will never forget that company or that manager for helping them through that phase. If it was 3 months, as you said, or 2 years, it doesn't really matter. It's that opportunity that maybe sent them on to a more positive route in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And those who might leave hospitality, well, whenever I bump into them, always say, best job I had, best industry I had. Well, I was in best career, but I wanted to go and be a physio, or I wanted to go and through family commitments, I had to move away, and that's the job I got. But yeah, I miss Friday night. I miss Saturday night. I miss thinking, oh my God, not all the stock hasn't arrived. What are we going to do? I miss that excitement. The fact that I could now go home and maybe cook a dish that I hadn't even heard of 3 years ago. They're just such good people. They are just such good people. And if you're an employer out there, come and join us, because you're missing out if you're not already on board.
I was quite interested in saying that. I was thinking about this is an opportunity to give people, learning to cook, learning to communicate, to cooperate, being part of a team, learning how to do a job. It's like life skills. They're so transferable into other things in life, yeah? And maybe the next job. If you want to be a physio or whatever you want to do, run your own business. Like, I think that, hospitality is a tough business, but therefore also if you learn how the business work and how you make money, then you can take that to any kind of business, like, and reuse that, because the complexity of the industry, because it's full of people and food, and it's like, it's never static in a way. So I think it's such a great place to learn from, and I love the way you phrased it. What has been in the last couple of years, Greg? There's a lot since 2018, but in the last couple of years, also the world is changing dramatically, and hospitality has been under a lot of change. What has been your top learnings, like from where you sit, and what is like something you would like to share and reflection you've had about things?
Oh God, right. I think the thing that I've noticed, and if you talk to Mark Stretton from Fleet Street, he will put his head in his hands when I say this. I think do-gooders are dangerous. And I started off as a do-gooder, but I had Delau from Crisis. And I think the one thing I learned is that you need to be commercial. You need to think, what is my return on investment? Because it's very nice for people to donate money, but it's also very hard, especially at the moment when people are donating money that they could do something else. We have a small coffee business that supports us, and I know that through the cost of living, through the industries going and COVID, they could have benefited from the money that they give us when they sign up a new employer or a new supplier, a new contractor, but they don't. They carried on with us. And I think what I've learned in the charity world is, if someone gives me a £5 and they say, sorry, it's only a £5, it's £5 I had more than I had 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And I think, the other thing I learned was, and a lot of this is, I think, down to the team I work with, because, I'm the old fart among them. They're all sort of, I think the oldest one's about 34. And so I tell them things sometimes and they just look at me and think, oh no, you weren't alive when that program was on, which really brings it home, But I think what they've done is, what I've gleaned out of this is that there's a new world out there, There's a young generation that care, that are highly principled, highly moral, and everybody sort of says, oh, look, people are on the scrounge and people are doing this, and, we're not the way we used to be. There's the young people who work for us, anything between 23 and 34, they're good people. They care. They put their extra bit in, and that they've got the work-life balance right as well, and they're happy. And I think that was, I came in the industry when I sort of started off at 15 working in schooner inns. And when I say to them schooner inns, they all look at me, because no one's ever heard of schooner inns unless you're my age. That was 70 hours a week, and I loved it. Wherever I'd been before, it was always 65, 70 hours a week. But that wasn't the right way to go. The right way is what they do, but to have that attitude and commitment. And they've been abroad, they've travelled, they bring new concepts in. So I would say if someone said to me, and I got this off of Nick McKenzie at Green King, if you want a mentor, get someone who works for you. Don't, mentors, your peer group and your seniors are great. But if you want a mentor, go and find someone who's, maybe a few steps down on the organisational chart, because they'll let you know where you're going wrong.
Yeah. And they are where the rubber hit the road, I normally say. And they will, if they're honest, you will get much more, concise feedback where you can actually go and do something that impacts very quickly as a leader. Is spot on. But you need to dare to do that, talking about confidence, yeah? You need to dare and hear the truth from the world. Yeah. I think young people, if you ask them, they will tell you the truth. And then you have to learn to accept actually the way they see the world is actually the truth as well as the way you see it. And I think that's a big learning. I actually talked with a friend about that yesterday, which was a bit like, how should he get feedback about how to improve something in his organization? I had said exactly the same to you. Go and find somebody in the organization. There will be one or two that will be absolutely candid with it, but you have to be ready to whatever they say and not make it their problem. They're saying the truth. Yeah. That you have to take it on board and then do something about it. You can't just, because they will then go somewhere else because that's one of your best people. They'll tell you the truth. Yeah. Some of the best people you can have employed. And they care. I will say.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think, and looking back when I was in sort of management development and training and did a spell there when I was at Bass and Coral, the one thing we don't train people in is managing up.
Yeah.
You know, how do you, because I can see with my team sometimes, you know, oh my God, when's he come up with this idea, you know? He's on a roll this morning. And you can see, right, and I look at them and think, well, they're going to pick someone who's going to come to me a bit later and say, if we did it this way, you know, so I think the managing up is something that we miss in what we give our teams in every industry.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And when you talk about managing up, you talk about they're both having the courage, but also the skill how to actually stop crazy ideas sometimes or crazy behavior that's going on, because you say, you know what, I've observed and a lot of organizations talk about they want it, but do they really want it? I'm still in doubt. I think some are really good at it, but others, that's really a gap still in the world we live in. It's very top down still.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. Love that how we got on managing up. What are you very excited about right now, Greg? What is the coming ahead of you that you really are excited about?
I suppose it's tough out there on fundraising, but I'm excited about finding more fundraisers, more going out and finding myself a philanthropist. Am I really, you know, will it happen? But I'm very excited about the fact I might just meet a philanthropist or be put in touch with someone who's going to say, there's a shed load of money and we can go and do it. I'm excited by the team I work with. I'm excited by the fact that I've met other people my age who have become old farts, you know, and spend hours watching television where I haven't had this buzz since I was an ops director. I'm excited for the team I've got that I work with. I don't believe they're my team. We are just a team that I work within, and we just happen to have different job titles. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about the fact that with the right funding, we can get 1,000. We can go for 500 to 1,000 people a year. Support them in one way or another to help them get into work. So that's what. Yeah, I think it's really exciting. The charity just. It sort of excites me every day. And I suppose the biggest challenge I've had is explaining to Jill that, because I told her at the beginning it would just be 2 days a week, you know, now it's like 5.5. And and don't worry, we go for it voluntarily. So that was cool. I suppose that's what comes into managing up, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
Telling your boss that it's slightly different, yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly different. That's how it is, yeah. Now you put it out there, and we hope we'll share with the world out there. I don't know if there's a philanthropist tuning in, but if there is, they know who to reach out to. How many people do you have in the pipeline, Greg, that is ready, like that you need
300.
300.
We've got 300 who could go into, we've got 250, 300 that could start work within a week.
Yeah. So that's also
they've been screened. They might have had some training, and they're ready to go. But obviously it's tough out there for the industry. You know, when you look at, what is it, the latest figures are coming out that we're 170,000 jobs less than we were last year. Give the industry its credit. We put 250 into work last year. We're probably going to be about 200 this year. 205. So we haven't had the same percentage decrease that the industry has had. And that's because, you know, you just can't fault this industry. They're still helping us. You know, I go to CEOs ever since I started this, ever since Jill and I kicked this off. I've never had a CEO say no. It's always how much and when do you need it by? And I know if they raise their eyebrows, perhaps I need to lower the figure a bit, you know. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, is that the industry has taken such a kicking so unfairly. You know, it's obvious without being political. You know, if the rise of unemployment has gone up and more people are on benefits, perhaps it's better left the NI costs alone. We wouldn't have been closing business. We wouldn't have had managers who are taking themselves off the payroll so they can keep their staff and give the service. And I just think it's so retrospective. But the industry continues to support its community through us as one vehicle.
Yeah, and that's very well known for the industry, even though hard to get, and it was seen in the pandemic as well. They find a way to help, yeah, and that's why people love to be part of the industry. That's one of the reasons why I think it's actually deeply. We talk a lot about. There's been a lot of talk about we lost the art of hospitality, and in principle said if you talk about it from a service point of view, but actually if you think about deeply what hospitality is about, is being human, yeah, and there's so much like care in the industry still, and actually does things as working with you guys and other great things. What is the one question where you wished I've asked you in this conversation? What would it be, and what would you answer?
I think we've done it is that what do you need for the future? What is it you need for the future? And I'll answer that by saying keeping the ethos, keeping the culture, and that's down to me, and finding myself a philanthropist. So that's what I'd want for the future. That's what I need. And what do I want for the future? Just let Only A Pavement Away grow, and people carrying on and supporting us. You know, we're one of 4 great charities within the hospitality sector. The other 3 do amazing work, and great respect for what they do. But you know, we've got our own little niche, and we will supply the people as a future. So what do I want? Money. What's my hope for the future? We just continue growing, and the next time we speak, Michael, we are talking about those 2,000 people into work, and that they stay there as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's always good to have a number. I love that. So 2,000 people you can help out there. Put your own energy in. Where should people reach out if they can either help you with money or help people getting a job? What's the best place to go?
Or if you go to www.onlyapavementaway.co.uk, you can find out everything about us. I have to point out there that the website is being upgraded, and one of my daughters is an analyst coder. She's done loads of pro bono work, so we're just waiting for funding, and then we will have the best website CRM system that any charity's got, and that will mean we can employ people quicker, and we can monitor them for longer. Because from the early days, there's 1 or 2 people, they'll be your hands up. I don't know what happened to them. They left. I just know they left after 6 months. With our new system of helping to fundraise, our own sort of page where people can donate, you know, all those people who do Tough Mudder for us, all those people who volunteer for us, all those people who do bike rides. And we've got a thing coming up 1st of December, end of December, Only a Movement Away. A guy called Alan Armstrong started it with a couple of them going out running every day leading up to Christmas. It's now called Only a Movement Away, and it raises good money for us. And they got a WhatsApp group, and it's fun. So yeah, I'll probably digress there, but yeah, it's just keep it coming, folks. Keep it coming, and we'll be there to make sure we help these people. And and I suppose the last thing I'd say is, could happen to any of us. I was made redundant. I was told I was going to be on the next level down from the board, and a new guy came in and didn't like 5 of us, and within a month we were gone. And you suddenly think, hang on, from the nice car and the nice lifestyle, no one wants to know you because you've been made redundant, and that's a hell of a shock, and it could happen to any of us.
I think it's a great way to end a very powerful conversation. It can happen to all of us. Thank you so much, Greg. I send power, energy, and love to you and the team, and the incredible work you do together with your partners, and wish you all the best in the coming period, and hope that you will get a lot of energy and power to reach the 2,000, thereby money.
Thank you, Michael. That's great. And thanks for this opportunity, because anything that gets a message out is great for us.